Welcome to the Substitute for War video blog number 3. In this blog, I'll be continuing a segment I did in video blog number 2 called Where Do We Go From Here? And in that blog, I looked at the Eastern Conference teams who were eliminated in the first round and talked about the summer next season and how they should feel about their place in the league. So in this blog, I'm going to be talking about the Western Conference teams who were eliminated in the first round. The team I'm going to start with are the Memphis Grizzlies, who lost in 7 games to the Clippers, despite having home court in the 7th game. And this was a disappointment for the Grizzlies. They were considered a favorite in this series. To me, it seemed like the biggest problem was that the offensive ball movement was just a lot worse than it was last season when they made their run. And that's probably in part due to the fact that Rudy Gay is on the team now, and I just think with Rudy Gay, Zach Randolph, Mike Conley likes to do dribble drive stuff, and Marc Gasol likes to be fed in the post. I just think there can be too many cooks in the kitchen, and they just had a little bit too much individual creation and not enough players who are good at playing off the ball, and it just became kind of more like a bogged down one-on-one type of offense to me. And particularly Gay and Randolph, it's not that they can't fit on a winning team, it's just that I'm not sure they can do it together. But the bigger problem probably was that they just didn't have very much depth scoring-wise beside the 4 players I mentioned. And that's where the Clippers really beat them, is that, especially in the 7th game, as they just had more players who could score in Memphis. Memphis just couldn't keep up with some of the guys the Clippers had off the bench. And in particular, what they really need is some shooters. And the way to complete this team probably would be if they could have a bunch of shooters come off the bench who could just start letting up threes. That would really make a difference, I think. And really, the player that they have who's supposed to be both the off-the-bench scorer and the best shooter is O.J. Mayo, but he's not particularly good at either of those skills. And frankly, I just don't think he's a particularly good player in general. And I don't know, maybe he has confidence issues, maybe he's just never been that talented, but I would look. He's a free agent this summer, and I would look to replace his spot personally as kind of the backup shooting guard who splits time with Tony Allen. If they could get a guy who's more consistent as an outside shooter and who can't be left open as much, and then maybe they could get like a backup small forward who also shoots threes. To me, that's kind of if they could get those 2 spots as really knockdown shooters, that would probably make the biggest difference for them. So I still think that they're in a good position to contend the next few years, just because it's so difficult to get a front court like they have in terms of 2 guys who can play in the post and pass well and rebound well. And I really like Mike Conley at point guard. So those 3 positions I think are so good that they're pretty close to filling up the rest. They just need to make some minor adjustments. The second team I'll talk about, the Denver Nuggets, who lost in 7 games to LA. And the Lakers had home court in that 7th game. And what's interesting about Denver is that they are the complete opposite of Memphis in that they have tons of ball movement and shooting, and they just don't have the front court type of power. And they just play a very small, fast-paced, reliant style. And the history of teams in the playoffs is that it just doesn't translate as well because the game turns into the half-court style of game in the playoffs. And yeah, Denver the roster just seems to me like very regular season friendly, even though it did work against LA because LA is kind of old and slow, and Denver is hard to guard against them. I just have concerns about whether that style is something they should rely on from this point forward, as well as the fact that they relied on Andre Miller and Al Harrington to play major roles this year, and those guys veterans who can help them forever. I really like the Ty Lawson, Aaron Aflalo, Danilo Gallinari perimeter, but I do wonder if it would be worth it to put one of those guys on the trading block just to see if they could get a front court player of comparable talent who could kind of balance out the roster for them. But really depends on what the offers would be. The thing this summer, the biggest thing this summer is what they do with JaVale McGee's contract. He played so well in the playoffs that he's likely going to get a big offer because it's so hard to get starting centers that I expect teams would be willing to give him double-digit per year salary. I'm still not sold based on the fact that he, to me, his optimal role might be more as like an energy backup center, just because, almost like a rich man's version of Chris the Birdman Anderson, just because I'm just not sure he understands the positional game well enough to start and to play like 35 minutes per game. Whereas if you bring him off the bench, he can do some rebounding and energy stuff. He can block some shots, but he can be taken out quickly if he needs to. And also, JaVale isn't that good of a post defender, so that's something that in the starting lineup is kind of harder to have a player who has those weaknesses. So I expect they will sign him, but maybe they do what they did with Nene, is that even if they don't like the contract, they'll look to trade it quickly, get some assets for it. I don't know. Maybe they just really like JaVale. We'll see. So that's Denver. I think they need to evaluate where they are, because if they continue having this all perimeter player, small kind of running team, I think they're going to top out as a first round knockout. So maybe they do need to blow up their team a little bit and try to go in a different direction. But I like the GM. I like how he cares about assets, but I don't love the next 2 seasons if they keep up with this core. The next team I'm going to talk about are the Dallas Mavericks, who kind of, I had criticisms about their last summer, their off-season, because it just seemed like they punted away this year by not signing Tyson Chandler and J.J. Barea instead, because they wanted to try and get free agents Darren Williams and Dwight Howard this summer. And it looks like that could backfire on them, because the team looks so old this year that Darren Williams signing there might not be a good situation for him, because Dirk just finished his 14th season, which is extremely long time in terms of NBA stars. Pretty much everyone after that point declines pretty quickly. So basically, if Williams signs there, they might be good for the next few years, but then they don't really have the young infrastructure to really be a great long-term situation for him. So the backup plan is probably to go after Steve Nash, who obviously has a history in Dallas and would be a great fit on that team, and they could make a win-now move. So that's kind of what I'd like to see the most, and I think that makes the most sense for Nash. But what's interesting about them is if they can't get Williams, they almost have too much cap space to spend. So they can really go either in 2 directions. They can either push all in on expensive veteran players and just try to win the next few years, or they can kind of kickstart the rebuild now by saving their cap space and trying to trade it for young talent and picks, combined with bad contracts, which teams basically trying to clear other teams' caps instead of their own. And this could help them set up the post-Dirk Nowitzki era. But I'm not sure how Dirk would feel about the team trying to start its rebuild early while it's still there, but we'll see. The final team I'll talk about are the Utah Jazz, who had a surprising run to the 8th seed, but they got swept by San Antonio, and the team was just too young and inexperienced, and San Antonio is too good. Basically, the obvious move to me is that to trade one of Al Jefferson or Paul Millsap. Personally, I'd trade both just because the value is basically peaking right now, and you're not going to get better value for them than they can get right now. But if they trade one, then they can have a free man rotation of, say they trade Millsap, then they have a free man rotation of Jefferson, and then the 2 young guys, Derek Favors and Enes Kanter, and then all 3 players can get a lot of minutes, and it would just be a more natural fit. to develop those players. But and then I like Utah's perimeter talent. I like Alec Burks and Gordon Hayward. I would go as far as say, to me, they both have all-star potential because they have the athletic tools and the skill and the basketball IQ. So if you add that to the front court pieces they have, despite trading Darren Williams a year and a half ago and essentially starting a rebuild at that time, I actually think Utah has one of the most promising young cores in the league. And to me, they're not far. They're a few years away from doing what Indiana is right now, which is having a nice mix of young perimeter talent and front court guys. And they handle their cap well, so maybe they can make it a free agent signing along the lines of like the David West signing. Utah's biggest hole is point guard. Tevin Harris played well last year, but I think with those big guys and perimeter and Burks and Hayward and the big guys Canton and Favors, what they could really use is like a pass first guy who gets them the ball in the right spots and who's concerned with making sure they get their touches. But so they're probably going to look around Harrison, an expiring contract. So maybe they package him with some value to see if they can get a young point guard. But let's see. Golden State kind of screwed them by Utah would have gotten their pick, but Golden State finished bottom 7, but Golden State tanked so much that it looks like they're going to get their pick. Anyways, Utah I think is in a great spot. They just need to hold serve with those 4 young players, develop them, tinker with the pieces a little bit, move a few veterans, but overall I think everything is going in the right direction for them. So that's the Western Conference teams who got eliminated in the first round. After the second round, I'll talk about the East and West teams that got eliminated and what they should do. And that's video blog number 3. Thank you for watching. And make sure you check out my Anthony Davis video that I just put up. And I felt pretty good about it. Pretty proud of it. So, thank you.